Vina sat silently in the small village square, her hands tied, eyes swollen from crying. The whole community stared at her with disgust. She was just 21, newly married, and already branded a witch. "She bewitched my husband!" her Aunt Zora screamed. "She brought death to this house!" No one let Vina speak. Her husband, Chemo, stood frozen. Her own blood had called for her destruction, but what they didn't know was that the baby Zora just had held a truth that would burn everything to ashes. Vina was just a little girl when her whole life changed. Her parents died in a terrible fire, and she was left with no one except her Aunt Zora. The village praised Zora for taking Vina in, calling her kind and selfless. And Zora always smiled in front of others, acting like the perfect guardian. But behind closed doors, things were very different. At home, Zora treated Vina like a servant. She made her cook, clean, and do all the hard work, while her own daughter rested like a princess. Vina was never allowed to sit with them, never praised, never hugged. Yet, she said nothing. She thought maybe this was normal. She told herself that Zora was doing her best. After all, she had taken her in when no one else did. Vina grew up believing that Zora was the only family she had, the only person who truly cared for her. She trusted Zora deeply, even when her heart sometimes whispered that something didn't feel right. She stayed quiet, hoping that if she kept being good, things would get better. But she had no idea that the very person she trusted the most was hiding a deep jealousy. Zora didn't take her in out of love. She took her in for control. And one day, that jealousy would grow so strong, it would nearly destroy Vina's life. One day, a man named Chemo came to the village. He was not like the other men. He was kind, soft-spoken, and well-educated. He came from the city, but he never looked down on anyone. Everyone in the village liked him, especially Zora. She had big plans. She wanted Chemo to marry her beautiful daughter. She believed that if her daughter married a man like Chemo, their family would rise in status, and she would gain more respect in the village. So, Zora made sure Chemo spent time with them, always inviting him over and praising her daughter in front of him. But something unexpected happened. Chemo's eyes didn't settle on Zora's daughter. Instead, he noticed Vina, quiet, gentle, and hard-working Vina. At first, Vina couldn't believe it. No one had ever truly seen her before, not in that way. But Chemo did. He saw her heart. He listened to her words. He cared about her dreams. Slowly, they fell in love, and Chemo decided to ask for her hand in marriage. When Zora found out, she was furious, but she hid it behind a cold smile. She pulled Vina aside and warned her. "Don't accept him," she whispered. "If you do, you'll regret it forever." Vina's heart trembled. For the first time, she saw something dark in her aunt's eyes. But she had tasted real love for the first time, and she couldn't walk away from it. Despite Zora's threats, Vina said yes to Chemo's proposal. The village buzzed with surprise. Some people whispered that Vina was lucky. Others said she didn't deserve a man like Chemo. But Zora stayed silent, her heart burning with envy. She smiled at the wedding, but inside, she was planning. Vina had taken something Zora wanted, and Zora would never forgive her for it. Not even 1 month after Vina and Chemo got married, something terrible happened. Chemo's older brother, a strong and healthy man, suddenly died in his sleep. The whole village was shocked. There was no warning, no sickness, just silence, and then sorrow. The family was broken. Chemo cried like a child, and Vina stood beside him, trying her best to comfort him and be a good wife. But even in that sad moment, someone was already planting poison in people's hearts. That someone was Zora. She started quietly whispering here and there. She didn't say things directly. Instead, she dropped small hints to the villagers. "Ever since that girl entered the family, things have not been the same," she'd say. "She may look quiet, but quiet ones are the most dangerous." At first, people didn't believe her, but Zora knew how to feed fear. Then strange things started happening. Chickens in the village began to die for no reason. Babies would cry through the night and not sleep. Someone's goat ran mad and bit its own leg. It all seemed small, but in a village where people believe in signs and spirits, it didn't feel normal. And Zora took that chance. "She has powers," Zora whispered louder now. Vina brought a dark cloud into Chemo's house. His brother's death, the crying babies, Even the animals feel her evil. Villagers began to look at Vina differently. Women pulled their children away when she walked past. Men avoided greeting her. No one could explain what was happening, but the fear in their eyes grew, and Zora stood back, watching it all with fake concern, pretending to be worried, pretending to protect the village. Vina didn't understand why everything was falling apart. She had only tried to be a good wife. She had loved purely, but now, eyes that once smiled at her were full of fear and hate. She didn't know that Zora had started a fire of lies, and it was about to burn her whole world to ashes. The whispers about Vina grew louder every day. Zora didn't stop. She made sure the whole village believed that something was wrong with Vina. People are dying. Animals are acting strange. Children are crying non-stop, she said. And all of this started after Vina came into this family. But Zora didn't stop at just words. She went a step further. She secretly paid a greedy spiritualist, someone who claimed to see spirits and talk to the ancestors. He came to the village in his long robe, shaking cowries and pretending to go into a trance. In front of the whole village, he shouted, "There is a dark spirit among you, someone who is not what she seems, a woman who has brought death into her husband's house." People gasped. Some looked at Vina. Others shook their heads in fear. Then the spiritualist pointed at her, right at Vina. "She is the one," he said, his voice shaking. "She is the cause of all this pain." The crowd went wild. Women screamed, men shouted. "Witch!" they called her. "You must leave our village." Vina stood there, frozen. Tears poured from her eyes. She didn't even know how to defend herself. She looked at Kimo, her husband, hoping he would speak, hoping he would say, "No, she's innocent." But Kimo was silent. His face was pale. His hands shook. He didn't say a word. Then Zora stepped forward, acting like she was in pain. She held her chest, crying fake tears. "Please," she sobbed, "don't hurt her. Even though she bewitched my family, I still see her as my own. Just let her go. Spare her soul." The people were touched by her fake kindness, but they didn't stop the anger. They grabbed Vina, dragged her to the village square, tied her hands, and forced her to sit in the sun like a criminal. People spat at her. Children threw sand at her. She was treated like a monster. And through it all, Zora watched, with fake tears and a wicked smile hiding behind them. Her plan was working. The village believed every word, and the woman she had hated for years was now hated by all. Vina was thrown out of the village like a dirty rag. No clothes, no food, nothing. Just the torn dress she wore when they dragged her in front of everyone. The people she had grown up with turned their backs on her. Some said, "She deserves it." Others simply walked past her like she didn't exist. The pain in her heart was heavier than any stone. But the worst part? Kimo, her husband, the man she loved. He didn't say a word. He didn't fight for her. He let them throw her away like garbage. She walked for hours, weak and crying. Her feet were bleeding, but she didn't stop. She didn't know where she was going. All she knew was that she had no home anymore. The sun was setting when she fainted near a quiet river. She thought she would die there, but someone found her, an old woman, wrinkled and wise, with kind eyes and herbs hanging from her belt. Her name was Mama Jola. She took Vina in, cleaned her wounds, gave her food, and didn't ask any questions. For the first time in days, Vina felt human again. Mama Jola didn't just heal her body, she healed her soul. She taught her how to mix herbs, how to understand people, how to feel the energy around her. Vina listened, learned, and slowly, her sadness turned into strength. Every day, she got a little stronger. Every night, she cried a little less. Mama Jola always said, "The world may forget you, but the truth never will." Vina held on to those words. She didn't plan revenge. She just waited, quietly, silently. But deep inside her heart, she promised herself, one day, the truth would come out. And when it did, the same people who called her a witch would kneel in shame. She began to smile again, not out of happiness, but out of power, because now she knew things. She knew how to heal, how to protect, how to rise without noise. Zora thought she had destroyed her, but what she really did was wake her up. Vina was no longer the scared, helpless girl. She was becoming something else, something stronger, something unstoppable. She had been banished, broken, forgotten, but not defeated. Never defeated. While the village still looked down on Vina and believed she was evil, something strange happened. Zora suddenly announced that she was pregnant. Just like that. Her belly started growing fast, and people were shocked. But instead of hiding, Zora smiled and said the baby belonged to Chemo. She claimed it happened during the time Vina was banished, that Chemo had been heartbroken and confused, and in his weakness, he came to her for comfort. She made it sound like she was helping him heal. The villagers believed her. They clapped for her. They said she had saved Chemo's name and the family's honor. They called her a good woman, even a blessing. But not everyone was convinced. Some of the elders whispered among themselves, how can she already be this pregnant? The timeline didn't make sense. Vina had not been gone long enough for the baby to be that big, but Zora kept lying. She cried in public, saying she forgave Chemo and loved him truly. She played the victim and the hero at the same time. The people ate up her lies like sweet fruit. They forgot how cruel she had been to Vina. They forgot the rumors she started. They only saw her smiling face and her growing stomach. Chemo, still lost and silent, didn't argue. He just stood by her, looking empty inside. It was like he was trapped and didn't know what to do anymore. Maybe guilt was eating him, or maybe he had truly lost himself. Either way, he didn't question anything. Zora decorated her house, wore the finest clothes, and acted like a queen. She even said the baby was a sign from the gods, that she had been chosen to continue the family. But deep inside, something didn't sit right. The truth was knocking, trying to break free, because no matter how big the lie, it can never cover the truth forever. And somewhere far from the village, Vina was watching, learning, and waiting. 1 year later, the village was full of noise and excitement. Drums beat loudly, people danced, and decorations filled every corner. They were planning a big festival to celebrate Zora's baby boy. They called the child a blessing, a miracle. Zora walked around proudly, holding the baby, smiling like a queen. The villagers praised her, saying she had saved the family. Everyone was ready for the feast, the music, the joy. But just as the celebration was starting, someone unexpected arrived. Vina. She walked into the village wearing all white. She didn't look weak or broken anymore. She was calm, peaceful, but there was something strong in her eyes, like quiet fire. The crowd froze. Some whispered, others gasped. How could she come back after everything? Zora pretended to be shocked and scared, holding the baby tighter, but Vina didn't shout or cry. She simply looked around and said she had come for only one thing, the truth. She asked for something no one expected, a DNA test. Her voice was soft but firm. The crowd laughed at first. They said, why would we do that? Others mocked her, saying she was jealous. But Chemo, who had been quiet for too long, stepped forward. His eyes were tired, but there was a new light in them, like something had finally clicked in his heart. He said, let's do it. The crowd fell silent. Zora's face changed. She laughed nervously, trying to stop Chemo. She said, there's no need. You know the child is yours. But Chemo didn't smile. He looked at her with new eyes, eyes that had seen too many lies. Let's be sure, he said. Suddenly, the joyful festival didn't feel so joyful anymore. The music stopped. The dancing paused. Everyone was now watching closely. Whispers turned into questions. What if Vina is right? What if we were wrong all along? Vina stood still, like a mountain. She didn't need revenge. She only wanted truth. And now, the truth was on its way, with the power to shake everything they believed. The day the DNA results came was like a thunderstorm waiting to break. Everyone gathered at the village square. Even the children were quiet. The elders sat in front. Chemo stood beside the messenger holding the paper. Zora stood behind the crowd, her arms shaking, eyes darting everywhere. Vina, dressed in simple white, stood calmly, not saying a word. When the envelope was opened, the whole village leaned forward. Chemo read it slowly. His voice was clear, but his hands trembled. I am not the father, he said. A gasp swept through the crowd. People started whispering, turning to each other in shock. Zora's mouth dropped open. She tried to speak, but no words came. The paper was passed around. The truth was there, black and white. But it didn't end there. Another name was written on that paper, the real father's name. It was shocking. The man was a married herbalist in the village, a man who everyone thought was holy and wise. Zora had been secretly meeting him for months. And worse, she had paid him to make fake charms. He told the village Vina had dark powers, but it was all a lie. A big, dangerous lie. People remembered everything now. The chickens dying, the babies crying, the fear. All of it had been part of Zora's evil plan. She had used the herbalist to fool the whole village. She told him to make everyone believe Vina was cursed. Then she pushed Vina out and took her place. But now the truth was open, like a wound. Zora tried to cry, to beg, to lie again, but no one listened. The same people who once called her a savior now looked at her like a snake. Chemo looked broken. He had lost everything. His real wife, his peace, his honor. And Vina, she didn't smile or cheer. She just turned and began to walk away. But everyone knew nothing would be the same after that day. Zora's mask was gone. The truth had spoken, and it was louder than all her lies. The moment the truth came out, the village square became silent like a grave. Then slowly, people turned their heads toward Zora, the same woman they once praised, the one who smiled sweetly and acted like a saint. Now her face looked pale, her hands shook. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. Chemo dropped to his knees, his head in his hands. He couldn't believe it. The woman he trusted like a mother had betrayed him. The woman he let destroy his marriage. The shame hit him like a heavy rock. He whispered Vina's name, but she didn't turn around. Zora fell to the ground, crying loudly. She started talking fast and broken. She said things no one expected. She confessed it all. Her lies, her tricks, her evil. She said she hated Vina from the start, that the fire that killed Vina's parents wasn't an accident. She set it herself. She wanted them gone, so she could raise Vina and control everything they left behind. Their money, their land, their name. She wanted it all. The crowd screamed in shock. Some women cried. Men clenched their fists. Children hid behind their mothers. Zora said she planned everything, raising Vina like a servant, making her feel worthless, so that one day she could take her place. She never thought Vina would fight back, never thought the truth would come out, but now it had. The elders stood up, angry and ashamed. They had allowed a true witch to live among them while punishing an innocent girl. Justice had to come, and it came fast. The chief ordered that Zora be taken away immediately. The skies suddenly rumbled with thunder. Rain began to fall, heavy and wild, like the heavens themselves were washing the lies away. Vina stood there, still quiet, but strong, her eyes full of pain, but not defeat. She didn't say a word as Zora was dragged out, screaming for forgiveness. Everyone watched her with new eyes, not as a witch, not as a servant, but as the brave woman who survived it all and brought the truth to light. Vina stood tall in the quiet aftermath of the storm, her heart heavy, but her spirit unbroken. She looked at Zora being taken away, but instead of feeling anger or hatred, she felt something stronger, peace. She decided right then she would not waste her energy on revenge. That path only traps people in darkness. Vina wanted light. With quiet courage, she began to rebuild her life from the ground up. She used her pain and strength to help others who had been hurt like her. Slowly, she opened a small healing center in the village, a safe place for women who had been hurt or misunderstood. Women came from far and near, seeking comfort, care, and hope. Vina listened to their stories and gave them strength to stand again. Her kindness and wisdom grew, and the village that once shunned her now respected her deeply. One day, Chemo came to her. His eyes were full of regret and sorrow. He begged her for forgiveness, hoping she could forget the past and start again with him. But Vina looked at him calmly and said softly, "I was never the witch, but you, let them burn me anyway." She did not shout or cry. Her voice was steady, filled with the power of someone who had suffered but learned to rise. Then, without looking back, she walked away, not as a broken girl, but as a queen who had claimed her throne with grace and strength. Vina's story spread across the village and beyond, not as a tale of pain, but as a story of hope and courage. She was not just a survivor, she was a leader. And in her rise, she showed everyone that true power comes from forgiveness, dignity, and loving yourself enough to move forward. She was no witch, she was royalty. If you believe in the power of truth and courage, share Vina's story with someone who needs hope today. Don't forget to like, comment, and follow for more inspiring stories that remind us, no matter what they say, your true strength always shines through.